Hello everybody, welcome back to another video game analysis. So we're back, we are ready. I get awkward with these intros because I don't get year-long practice. So today we're back in the what I like to call at this point in my YouTube channel the in construction room. This is my actual bedroom for those who don't know, and whenever I'm here, whenever you see this in the background of my videos, that means I'm getting a change in location. I don't know why, but somehow there's always some sort of new location I have to be in. First I was in the basement, and that really, now when I look back on it, I hated it. That really dark, brown, hard to see everything kind of place, building, yeah, basement room. And I liked it because it had the wood paneling, and that really described what the Atari age kids were playing in. You know, the wood paneling rooms with it didn't have any carpeting in it, but that was the places where Atari kids would play their video games because the wood paneling walls were the thing. But now I realized the lighting was awful, and then we had my bedroom for a whole time because we were redoing the basement. And then what you see a lot in the past couple of years, the yellow room or the white room, that was the new basement. So now, what happened? Long story short, now I'm getting a new, bigger bedroom, and I don't have to go into the details. My sister put a room in the basement now. Don't worry about the details. Just know that I'm getting a larger bedroom. There's actually a small bedroom, and now I can put all of my consoles and all of my electronics and everything in one room. So I'm going to be doing my videos there from now on. But we'll probably be in this room with the VGAB for like maybe 3 or 4 episodes, I imagine, because next month it's when we're going to get started on painting the new room. I'm going to start moving things in. It's going to take a while, but yeah, so we got that transformation going on. So with that being said, today we're going to be talking about Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong is a character I was excited to go through to start off this season because Donkey Kong is a character that everyone knows, but at the same time really didn't get he is not a mascot level. Like last year we talked about Mario and Link, like who if Link would be the face of Nintendo over Mario if he came first. And when I tinkered around with that idea of mascots, you think of Donkey Kong and you would think this guy really should be the face of Nintendo. But he isn't. And I perfectly agree with Mario. I think he's a great face of Nintendo. I think that works very well. But at the same time, Donkey Kong's someone worth talking about because he really is this unsung hero of the entire Nintendo company as a video game company. So, now you're going to notice a theme here. I chose all of the games I chose today are all the big points Donkey Kong had in the Wii U, on the Wii U. And this isn't all of them, but these are 3 noticeable points where I was playing Donkey Kong games. Plus, I have used Donkey Kong footage in the past, so I think it's really important that I show off some new stuff. So the beginning of Donkey Kong as an arcade game really put Nintendo on the map as a gaming company. This was Nintendo's Pac-Man. And the entire concept of Donkey Kong was originally going to be a Popeye game where he saves olive oil from Pluto. And when I first heard of that fact, you can see it in here. Like, just recolor Pauline's hair black, and there you go. But they couldn't get the rights, which really is an interesting story on how they started making their own ideas. Nintendo was trying to make video games based on other things, but in the end, Donkey Kong was the true beginning of their creativeness. And we all know the story where they got sued by Universal for the rights of King Kong. Okay, but, even so, Donkey Kong served as a parody, and it was a great beginning point for specifically Miyamoto's creative quality in his video games, where he creates memorable characters in great gameplay settings. Another game I would love to show if I had a Game Boy copy was Donkey Kong 98, which was the Game Boy version of Donkey Kong. And if you ever played Mario vs. Donkey Kong, it's a similar kind of game. But Donkey Kong has a lot of rich history. But by Donkey Kong 3, there was a big tank in sales, and what a lot of analysts agree with is the fact that it was because Mario wasn't in it. Now, that I believe is the beginning of Donkey Kong's history outside of his revitalization with Rare. where Donkey Kong was their arcade identity. That was Nintendo's arcade identity, and then Mario switched over to the console identity, which is where Nintendo steered completely into. So on the NES in general, all of Donkey Kong's games were ports of his arcade titles, and I think that strengthens my point really well. When you have Donkey Kong, like back then when you thought of Donkey Kong, you thought of arcade games, and that's how it was. And if Mario wasn't in it, it wasn't on a console. And even today, that the handful of what Mario is Donkey Kong being in Mario games. You know, like all the spin-off titles, and he deserves it. You know, the whole concept of putting Donkey Kong Jr., which is where this all started, putting Donkey Kong in the spin-off games. The whole process of putting Donkey Kong Jr. into Super Mario Kart, who was originally supposed to be Kamek, really is a way of Nintendo saying thank you, Donkey Kong, for giving us Mario. And the question of whether that's fair or not to Donkey Kong did change in today's scope. But either way, it's very clear to show that Donkey Kong never and doesn't have the kind of brand recognition for Nintendo that Mario or Link has. So I briefly mentioned what I said, the revitalization of Donkey Kong. Now, what does that mean? Now, something I can point into this argument is there's definitely a Metroid parallelism to this with Donkey Kong, where another company took over a franchise that was underlooked at and then put it into the mainstream world. So, with Metroid, there's Metroid Prime. You see, the N64 never had a Metroid game, and it's just what's going to happen if you're a creative person and you have a lot of intellectual properties or IPs or franchises, whatever you want to call them, where sometimes you see these guys get up here. These guys, it may be because you find them more interesting, or you find there's more to do with them, or you find that they're always modern, or you find that they're profitable. And then there's other ideas you made money off in the past that were down here, and eventually they start fizzling out in time. And a lot of people make the argument that Sonic the Hedgehog is someone who fizzled out in time, but they're trying to push forward. I can't. That's another argument for another day, but it's an argument to bring up because Donkey Kong had Rare, and we all know this story, and I'm sure I've told it on the VGAB before. But Donkey Kong had Rare that did a Metroid Prime with Samus. And even I thought it was interesting. I think it's interesting to throw out there the point that Donkey Kong was in Punch Out Wii, which was the first Punch Out game in a long time. Because Punch Out was very popular on the NES, and they had a Super Nintendo game, and then you didn't really see it anymore. But bringing it back for the Wii, it was really interesting, and they put Donkey Kong in it. And I think it was like some sort of unconscious message of saying, these are two great NES classic people. Or in Donkey Kong's case, it's really more for the arcades, but a lot of people play Donkey Kong on the NES regardless. So you have Donkey Kong fighting Little Mac. I think that's a great analogy for what I'm trying to explain here. The fact that there is a revitalization, and it happens. You'll have IPs that are forgotten that get a reboot. Look at Ratchet and Clank recently, for example. That tie right there, that is the perfect visual metaphor. I can't repeat words. That's not good in an essay. That tie is a perfect visual metaphor for the revitalization of Donkey Kong. Now, even Donkey Kong Country as a series itself, Donkey Kong Country Returns for the Wii, like the title says it itself, was, again, Donkey Kong went into obscurity. And he had a GameCube era. Like, here's how I think it works with Donkey Kong. You start off with the NES, and in the NES he was just, hey, this was our arcade identity as Nintendo. This is the person who gave us the opportunity to make games like Mario and Zelda. And then throughout the rest of the time with Donkey Kong, it was throwing them in Mario games to make the same message. Thank you, Donkey Kong, for giving us what we have today. That's what I feel like adding Donkey Kong in the Mario spin-off games does. It's Nintendo's way of saying, thank you, Donkey Kong, for giving us what we have today. So, when Donkey Kong Country happened, I thought that was a brilliant move for Rare, because Rare had an opportunity to not only make when they were offered a chance to take a Nintendo IP and make a game off of it, You know, it was very deserving. But at the same time, Donkey Kong had an opportunity to be revitalized. They could have picked Mario. They could have picked Zelda. They could have picked Metroid. They could have. They could have picked the very big top Nintendo IPs. They could have picked Star Fox. They could have. But with that being said, they didn't. They chose a character that they can do a lot of creative things with. Because it's like, how do you make a full-length platformer or whatever they had, or whatever, based off of the idea of Donkey Kong? It was an arcade game. There wasn't really much to it. It was a simple one-screen arcade game. And, you know, that's great, but Rare wanted to make a full platformer out of that. And Donkey Kong Country is what they came out with. It was a brilliant move. They were able to make a redesign. They made up the story where Cranky Kong is the original Donkey Kong, and the Donkey Kong we have with the ties is his grandson. Like, great move. You know, they're allowed to do things like that. Diddy Kong came out of it. A whole Kong universe came out of it that I think was best shown off in Donkey Kong 64. But when Nintendo lost Rare, when Nintendo sold Rare, I noticed there was a trend with, since Donkey Kong was popular again, really big, with Donkey Kong Country, and then there was Donkey Kong 64, and then there was Donkey Kong, and then like, but when the GameCube came around, Donkey Kong, you know, they still had the rights to Donkey Kong, but they wanted to use that popularity that Rare gave him to their advantage, and they made games like Donkey Konga, which was like the closest thing to Guitar Hero Nintendo had at the time. And there was Donkey Kong Jungle Beat using those damn bongos, which I thought were good. I thought the bongos were fun. But, you know, regardless, Donkey Kong is an icon now. He's in mainstream attention. It's like the same argument with Metroid. Again, I'll make that parallelism. Metroid Prime had a pinball game. You know, to have side games based off of the Metroid series, it shows that it's in the mainstream light. It's worth making these little games to bank off of its success. And that's what they did for a long time for Donkey Kong. And then when Retro Studios came around, which everyone credits, and I agree, credits as the new Rare for Nintendo, that's what it comes down to. The new Rare for Nintendo is Retro Studios, and they made Donkey Kong Country Returns after spending time making Donkey Kong, Metroid Prime. Again, more parallelism here. So, when you have that mainstream popularity and you lose it after, you know, because it fizzled out. You know, all the Jungle Beat was over. They stopped making Donkey Kong games for a while. Another brilliant move by Retro Studios. Let's bring Donkey Kong Country back. So brilliant. So brilliant. I keep saying so. Donkey Kong as a franchise is constantly dropping in and out, and right now I think it's pretty strong. You know, they had a good Donkey Kong always had a good handheld history, especially at this time. But again, that was all thanks to Rare and bringing Donkey Kong into the mainstream light. I think it's really cool. And I think this whole video is kind of a discussion about how franchises work, like how companies like Nintendo handle having so many intellectual properties. You know, like when it comes to, like, let's take Marvel for example. I want to illustrate my point here on how Donkey Kong works here. So before the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is a discussion I was having recently. I was talking about who are the heroes you knew from Marvel in the mainstream mass audience? Not comic book nerds like us. I'm like, think about it. It was Wolverine, Spider-Man, and the Hulk. That's all people really knew. And only because these three heroes got the TV shows, they got the movies, because they were pushed for them because they felt that they were marketable, and they were successful. So those were the heroes in the non-comic book fans' world. Then you made the movies. And all of a sudden, what was once a B-list hero set, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, these people are now in the A-list bracket because they got revitalized. They got their mainstream attention. And even though people like them are so important in the Marvel Universe, those three I mentioned, they weren't that well seen in the mass audience. And, you know, if you're going to make a movie, you know, especially a movie, and you're going to take that kind of risk, you got to make sure it's successful, and that's how you do it. So That being said, it's the same sort of Donkey Kong. Whenever Donkey Kong's picked up again, I noticed this. Whenever Donkey Kong's picked up again, it's because a company wants to give him a shot because they think they can do something with him. Because Nintendo didn't, you know. Like even today with Star Fox being done by Retro Studios again. I'm sorry, Platinum Games. You know, like, there's always something where, well, we would want to give this a shot because I remember this. I was inspired by this and I want to work on it. That's what Donkey Kong Country came in. And Donkey Kong always pushed the envelope for Nintendo. Donkey Kong started the arcade, putting it on the map for the arcades. Then he helped get the character Mario to revitalize the console market and put Nintendo where it is today. So Donkey Kong, the Super Nintendo, Donkey Kong, it showed off 3D graphics. It was incredible. The N64, Donkey Kong had to get an expansion pack from the N64 to make it work, because it was a huge game. It was an experience we never really had before on the N64, and then the world record, man, for the most collectibles in a video game. Then you move on from there, and Rare lost Nintendo, and that was the studios that Nintendo depended on to make Donkey Kong. Much like how HAL is dependent on to make Kirby, and Game Freak's dependent on to make Pokemon. Now we have Retro Studios for Donkey Kong. I mentioned that before. And Donkey Kong just always pushed the envelope. Nowadays, they bring them back for good old Donkey Kong fun, and I like that. The fact that side-scrollers are coming back, that's such a foreign thing to me who grew up with the N64 and the GameCube. Because that was all 3D games. That's the future, that's where we are. But then no, 2D games should have attention too. And games like Donkey Kong Country are a good testament to that. But, the way Donkey Kong gets treated overall is his face will always be shown because it's a thank you from Nintendo. But at the same time, well, let's talk about it. So yeah, overall, unlike I mentioned a lot of franchises today, but unlike Star Fox, unlike Metroid, unlike Punch Out, these were Donkey Kong was a face that stayed within Nintendo's games, particularly with Mario. But I think Nintendo Land's a good thing to show off here because Donkey Kong got his own attraction and he deserves it. Donkey Kong always deserves a thank you from Nintendo because he was the person that got them started in the video game market. And with Donkey Kong today, like in the most part, especially again as growing up as an N64 kid, Donkey Kong for the most part was within the Mario spin-off titles. He was a character there, and that's what I'm saying. Donkey Kong's face was always present in the Nintendo lifespan. Like every console had Donkey Kong, even if it wasn't his own game. Every console had Donkey Kong within it, and Donkey Kong has a presence. It's just not as strong. I think that's a good conclusion here. It's just not as strong as Donkey Kong's was, as Mario's or Link's was. Donkey Kong, I remember this game too. This was like the game everyone loved the most when this game came out. It's addictive as all hell. I got really bad at it because I haven't played it in a couple years. But Donkey Kong here is just always there. I think that's something you can take from here. Like, despite the fact that his time in the spotlight can be varied and can switch around a lot, especially with Rare's departure from Nintendo, there's this concept of Donkey Kong needing to always be around. Almost like as if he has to watch over Nintendo. I think that's something really important to point out here. That Donkey Kong will always push the envelope when people are ready to take him on. He's one of those franchises, because he's not in the A-list, because he's not on the top, because he's not like the highest priority, he's someone in between the point of Metroid and Mario, where he comes back when it's time for him to come back, but he's always present. They're going to use Donkey Kong to celebrate Nintendo and celebrate the Mario franchise particularly. And it's just a great concept. It's just I think they handle Donkey Kong the best out of all of their, not Mario, Zelda, not Mii's these days, because Mii's got that kind of attention. Realm of characters, because Nintendo has a lot of characters, and they'll have HAL to handle Kirby and Game Freak to handle Pokemon, and those are other franchises that Nintendo makes a lot of success on. These are the big names of Nintendo. But again, Nintendo has so many intellectual properties, and this goes for any creative people. Like Disney, I think, is another great example where, you can't always depend on
Like you can't always depend on one franchise, but at the same time, there's one franchise the company wants to do the most with, whether or not it's because it makes the most money, or because it has the most recognition, or because it has the most relevance, or because it's the one people can do more with. Like there's so many reasons here, just besides profits. But obviously, come on, profits is a big component here. So yeah, I think we're good here. By the way, just so you don't get suspense, I don't win this. I get up to that part with I get up to this part here and I always die. So yeah. See?
So yeah, Donkey Kong's pretty cool, and we should always keep him in our minds. I like Donkey Kong. I had a lot of fun with Donkey Kong in the past. Like I never got too much into his games. I'm like a super Donkey Kong fan, but it's always good to appreciate the kind of presence Donkey Kong gave to Nintendo. So yeah, that being said, next time, oh boy, I haven't said that in a while. Next time we're going to be looking at licensed games. Now it will be kind of related to this week because we talked about how franchises work, and we talk about how game companies will make money off of the success of these said intellectual properties. But yeah, next time we're going to take a look into licensed games, maybe get into a little discussion on how they're handled. So actually, that's going to be the whole thing. So yeah.
If there's anything I missed, if there's anything I got wrong, if there's anything you would like to add to the conversation, please do not hesitate to leave a comment. A like and a share would also help too. Subscribe, you know the drill. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Billy, your video game analyzer. Have a good day, good night whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you next time.